Coming up tonight on Game All Night, Alan Gerding joins us for our anniversary special. This Week in Each Week is brought to you by Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience.
Welcome to Game All Night.
Welcome to Game All Night. I'm your host, Alan Gerding, not Chris Whitpan, and I'm joined with the bartender, Dan. Hey, Dan, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. I'm excited about what we're going to do tonight. This is,
Yeah, I are my assistant tonight in the best of ways because I'm really jumping into the deep end of the pool. I'm not sure exactly what the hell I'm doing. So have you ever seen the movie Happy Gilmore?
I have not, as a matter of fact. I think I've missed out on a fair amount of Adam Sandler's,
Some people would commend you for that. I'm not judging you. Here's the thing. He has a caddy, and he's new to the golfing game. I'm just rushing through the scene that I want you to know. And he asks his caddy to make sure he doesn't make an ass of himself. So that's basically what I'm relying on you to do tonight. Because if I'm doing something totally wrong, please chime in and reel me in and make sure I'm not making too much of a fool of myself.
Yeah, I feel like you maybe haven't gotten the essence of my role here on the show. Really, it's to seize upon those moments where you're making an ass of yourself and make sure that that everyone's fully aware of them. But I'll do my best.
The worst person possible. Very nice. Dan, we just became friends on Twitter, so I want to know a couple things about you before we talk about what we're drinking tonight. Could you do me a favor and tell me one really interesting thing about you and one really boring thing about you?
I tell you what, I'm really good at leading with really boring things.
Okay.
So let's start right there. So yeah, I am a father of three.
Holy snooze fest.
Yeah, exactly. Children, boring family life. It is everything that you would expect to be, which is to say absolutely nothing anyone wants to tune into a YouTube show to hear about.
What are their age ranges? What's the youngest? What's the oldest? From
4 to very nearly 9. We'll be celebrating the 9th birthday of my eldest in just a few weeks here.
Wow. Well, that's a span right there. That's a healthy span. Myself and my brother, we have a 4-year difference between the two of us, and it's just the two. But now I want you to tell me something so interesting about you that people may never think of you the same way again. I'm putting you on the hot seat here.
Yes, you are, in fact, because the interesting is not the attribute for which I was hired here. This is fascinating tales about Dan are few and far between.
Got it. Boring dude. How about you do me a favor? Explain why I'm here tonight instead of Chris Whitpan.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not just a change in management here. That, as a matter of fact, we are celebrating our quasi-anniversary. Game All Night is that we are coming up now on a year worth of episodes, and certainly we've passed over the calendar year fairly recently. So we wanted to take a look back at the year that was in the first season of Game All Night, talk a little bit about how the show came to be and everything like that. And Chris thought that it was time for someone else to take the host's chair, and so that you could grill him and dig a little deeper.
I'm Matthew Jude, and I'm here to talk to you about Game All Night. Game All Night is a scourge. It's a plague. It's an evil entity designed by Chris to try and take over board game media. Who the hell does he think he is? Everyone knows that was my job. Hey, this is Matthew. Game All Night. I was on that one, That was fun. Enjoyed it. Chris is a nice guy. Dan's nicer. We like him. I'm very grateful for Chris for doing what he does because he sticks at it, doesn't he? He sticks at it. And all the rumours about him. We've all heard the rumours, right, about Chris. It goes around Twitter every other day, doesn't it, about Chris. About how he's a monster. But I know almost for a fact that is his original skin, all right? I'm I watch very closely to Games All Night, and I know that he's only got one set of eyelids, right? I don't think he's a reptilian. I don't think he is. He might be some form of shapeshifter, but I don't know what kind of shapeshifter. He's not reptilian. Maybe he's a moleman. We don't know, do we? He does stuff. It looks like a basement. Maybe he's underground. I think he's a monster. I don't understand. I think he might be a monster. Chris is a monster. What's happening? Dan's good though, isn't he? We like Dan. Anyway, thanks Chris for everything you do. You alternative board game media comrade. We're taking over. Very slowly. Incredibly slowly. We're taking over, but by the time we've actually managed it, everyone will be dead. Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.
So Chris is going to be on the hot seat tonight. Best mistake he ever made. I'm excited. What are you drinking?
No one better to do it, too. So we're really excited to have you here in the host chair.
I'm honored.
Okay, wait. So as a matter of fact, I see that you're sipping your beverage. So since we have a tradition here on Game All Night to chat briefly about beverages here, so what is it that you've got in your glass this evening?
I have something that is very dear to my heart. I've been living off of this stuff for over 3 years at this point. It is Soylent, the meal replacement. I didn't diet green. I know Chris wanted me to diet green, and I'll be honest, I totally forgot. And one of the problems with drinking Soylent as your primary source of all nourishment is everyone makes the Soylent green joke. So I guess I didn't want to contribute to that unconsciously by forgetting.
Fair enough. Now, what I am drinking, I think some people have at various times in history also regarded as a meal replacement. But I think if you went for 3 years straight drinking only beers, you would start to run into a problem. Someday
I won't judge you.
I'll take on that experiment. But yeah, so I'm drinking a New England IPA from a brewery in Connecticut called Fat Orange Cat. It's a tiny little farm-based brewery. In fact, so small that they are closed right now for the winter. They are a seasonal brewery. They only brew for a few months each year. But honestly, the reason I picked this one up was because I saw it sitting on the shelf and thought that the name of this beer was evocative of what we try to do here on the show. It's called Right Drunk, Edit Sober.
That's actually the label. The label's actually just that handwritten looking.
Yeah, it's a true story.
That is amazing. I love it. I love it so much.
And it's delicious.
How does it taste?
It's lovely. New England IPA, if you've tuned into the beer lovers who watch the show will know, is a favorite of both a host, bartender, and some guests that we have on here. It's maybe our flagship style of beer for Game All Night, and I'm a big fan. And
Very
on
nice.
that note, I've poured a New England IPA for someone else here.
I'm wondering, what is Chris drinking, Dan?
So it's Gandalf said that there's only one Lord of the show, and he does not share power. So as a matter of fact,
a 2-year-old.
I love it.
Chris is drinking one of the most renowned of the New England IPAs, Lawson's Sip of Sunshine, as a matter of fact. How high, Chris, does Lawson sit, or does Sip sit on your list of New England IPAs?
Sip of Sunshine's right there. It's my number 2 of all time. It's amazing. I love it.
So the obvious question is, what's your number 1 for the uninitiated?
So for the uninitiated, it's actually one that's nearby. It's called Second Fiddle by Fiddlehead Brewing. So it's a little bit more north, but it's so good. So good. I had that last week, so I thought I'd mix it up a little. So if you want a lot of beer talk, go back and listen to Bonacor's episode. We just couldn't stop.
I definitely listened. I didn't realize Bonacor was such a beer guy. I knew he was a drinker. I didn't know he was a beer guy. So
Yeah.
I guess those two go well together. So good for him. Are you much of a wine person at all?
I do some. I don't do a ton, but I definitely like when I'm cooking and things, I like to have a nice glass of wine, and I'll take a nice, but I want the lighter stuff. I tend to like a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc or a Pinot Noir from up in Oregon. I like things that are a little lighter, a little easier to drink, and not food dependent like a big cab or something crazy. What about you?
Cards on the table. Totally honest.
Yeah?
I'm not a drinker. Not beer, not wine, not any alcohol.
No?
I'm like Dan in that way. really boring. So,
You make up for it in many other ways, sir. Do not worry.
I hope so. I hope so. Here's my opening question.
Shoot.
This is actually just me being curious, and you can even answer this if you want to, Dan. But I know with wine connoisseurs, they always talk about the oaky flavors. And I actually find it more interesting, in my opinion, probably because of the novelty of it, when beer connoisseurs talk about the flavors of the beers that they drink. But with my background in psychology, I've read that so much of our preference and taste has everything to do with our psychology of the moment in which we first tasted something. So basically, you could be eating a turd, but if it was in the most romantic, immersive setting anywhere, it may not taste as bad as you would think it would. I'll give you a better example. Some people will have the best glass of wine they've ever tasted when they're visiting Italy. And so they spend so much money shipping all that wine all the way back to their homeland in America. And then when they drink it, they think, what happened to the wine? It tasted so much better in Italy. But the reason it tasted better in Italy was because of the whole immersive experience and the ambiance and the romance of traveling. Do you think that applies to beer as well? Do you think your number one beer is because of the nostalgia and what you were doing while you were drinking it?
So I think to a point, I totally agree with the wine thing, right? Like, but wine is generally a social, it's with dinner. So I can see the feels and the tie-in. Beer, it's a little bit more personal. Like, for instance, I love that, every time Dan brings up the Vermont beers, I always make a pilgrimage up to Vermont and I go to the breweries and I literally buy it from the shelves and I do these things. And so it's kind of a ritual, and it's the whole thing that kind of makes them, it tastes better, when it comes that way. But so I think there's definitely psychology to it. I totally get that. And then board games do the same thing, right?
Boom, exactly. Because so many board games are sold on theme alone. The mechanics could be junk, but if you're having an amazing time with your friends and the theme is immersing you, gold. Absolute gold.
Hey, Chris. Well, it's already been a year of laughs, games, excitement, adventure, mystery, magic. Thank you so much for having me on. We met under crazy circumstances back a couple of years back, and it was a real honor to have you have me on the show and have that weird chemistry turn into something really positive. I've seen you at conventions ever since. I obviously had that time with you on the show. Had a fun time battling with you on trying to figure out what my podcast Sean would like more. Good memories there. Had a fantastic show. Great job. And anytime you're willing to have me back, I'll be an able guest. But congrats on the 1 year and keep up the good work.
If there's probably no better example for me than Two Rooms and a Boom. And we're not pandering, not doing any of that. But, when do I think about that game is when I have all my friends over my house and we're doing a birthday party and there's like 14 of us at the end of a night. It's Saturday night and we play this for like 10 rounds. And I love it because it's everybody getting together. It's the loud, it's the accusing. It just has all those feels to the point where if it's not that environment, I'm hesitant to bring it out because I don't want to ruin that. Does that make sense?
Right.
Or am I being weird?
No, that totally makes sense. I consider the games that I play a little bit of my baby. And if I'm in an abusive group, I'm not going to just start showing everyone my baby.
Right.
I mean, I would argue that you could, and I'd like to believe that Two Rooms and a Boom can bring the best out in people because it's one of these team-based games. Even though it's competitive, it feels cooperative. Man, I really appreciate that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I love it.
This was actually the prop that I brought out. And I made the fake dynamite and everything for our show together.
It's beautiful.
And it was funny that it just kind of happened, right? Like, this was not planned, not at all.
Oops. Turns out shoot.
Games, you have this show that you started, Game All Night, and here we are on it right now. And I know that you've talked before on how the show came about, but let's talk a little bit about the uninitiated, because maybe this is kind of a zero episode for some people. And since you're in the hot seat, let's spend a little bit of time talking about how you became inspired to transform your living area into this beautiful set and bring on guests in the gaming environment. Take us back. Tell us the story, if you will.
So the short version is I love a hobby. And when I love a hobby, I want to kind of go all in. And for, board gaming, I wanted to find a way in, and I didn't know if it was podcasting, but I couldn't come up with anything new and exciting. Everything, every thought I had already been done. And I just don't want to do the same thing. Right.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, well, okay, fine. So I kind of sat back, and one time I even went to film a playthrough, and I'm like, oh, I could be the next Rado, no problem. My God, that takes a long time. I'm like, you have to set the game up, you have to get the camera. I had to start over 3 times, and I'm like, you know what? Yep. Rado's doing just fine. I'll let him go. So
he's got it.
Yeah, that kind of failed. And then I met Gary Pope at Gen Con one year.
Gary. Dirty name, Gary.
I know.
Man, in our episode, he kept messing up. I love him.
I kind of feel more ashamed of you, Gary.
I love to hate him. Keep on going. But you met Gary Pope. Go on.
Dan messes things up too, just fine. But,
I'm carrying on a noble tradition. As a matter of fact, I
make the monkey push the buttons.
At Dan just as much as I yelled at Gary, because I really liked that aspect of the show, was that I was able to abuse Gary. I don't know Dan as well as I know Gary, but man, I feel like Dan has already used me as a punching bag a little bit.
I kind of feel that. I kind of feel it needs to happen at some point. So if you ever feel like he needs a slap, feel free to virtually slap him.
Well, we're playing monikers again tonight, so stay tuned. And I'm sure Dan over there is probably going to screw up at some point, so I won't hold back. I'll totally blame any mistakes I make on Dan, because he's supposed to have my back anyway. But let's get back to the story at hand. You met Gary Pope, and how did this transpire?
So, we were both kind of sitting at this space where, he didn't have any, he was doing late to the table, but it was kind of falling off, and we were kind of, we kind of have a same visual aesthetic. We talked about cameras, yada, yada, and just kind of hit it off, got along very well. So fast forward to PAX that year, and we see each other again. And I'm like, this, I don't know. He's kind of somebody I like. His sense of humor lines up with mine. And so I think it was 2 weeks later, I was flipping through stuff, and I'm like, I think I watched Space Ghost, and that was the original Catharsis. I'm like, dude, God. Space Ghost meets board games. And then,
oh my goodness.
And then I'm like, all right, well, how can we make this happen? And then, the screen idea came from a tech show called Twit. This Week in Tech. He does panel shows with multiple screens. So I'm like, that would be a cool way to do interviews. And then I'm like, nobody's doing the dress up late night. Let's not talk about the games. Let's talk about the people kind of show. And so I started messaging Gary, and then, we started, that was probably November, and we started preliminary work. And man, we spent 2 months getting this show ready, building the set and, kind of getting all the tech ready. And Gary was researching the tech. I mean, he's the only reason the tech is even close to working. He put us onto the systems and stuff, and then poof, we launched. We tried to keep it quiet because I think that the format, was unique, and I'm like, something cool's coming. And then we launched, and it's been a blast. I'll be honest with you, if it stops being fun, I'm not going to do it. But it's awesome, and I fell in love with it. I've never really interviewed outside of work and jobs. And I'm just like, I don't think I'm great at it, but I think I'm the everyman. And I think that's kind of
fake it till you make it.
Right.
Fake it till you make it. Right.
I'm still faking.
How do you?
That's
yeah. I was going to ask, how much do you feel you're faking it as opposed to making it nowadays? Do you think as you go on, it's getting a little bit easier and a little bit easier and a little bit more natural, or has it not really come about yet? How do you feel judging yourself, looking back, reflect on the past? How are you doing?
I definitely feel it. I've gotten way better. I mean, we're pushing close to 50 episodes total, right? And one would hope that you can improve doing this for 100 plus hours. But it's gotten more comfortable. I've always been comfortable chatting and asking people questions, but kind of being able to see the rabbit hole they're trying to, maybe go down. I'm not Maury. I'm not here to dig up dirt. I'm not trying to put people on the spot, make them uncomfortable. Like, no, they're having fun. I want them to share. To the point where if you share something that you're not comfortable with and you say, hey, wait, that wasn't cool, can we not include that? Absolutely, I'll cut that out. But honestly, nobody's ever asked. So,
I made the mistake of totally revealing my murder locations and my burial sites, and you totally cut that out. And if you watch the episode that I'm on, you'll see that there's plenty of jump cuts and commercials. So thanks for editing that out, Gary.
Hey, Chris, it's me, Trevor. Thought you could forget about me, huh? Trevor, your original co-host for your show, until you drop me like a bad habit. Well, your show Game All Night's doing pretty good without me. But that's cool. I got my own thing going now. It's Meeples for Muppets. Yeah, we're top 5 shows for sock puppets. It's a pretty big deal. But anyway, congratulations. Okay, turn it off. This is dumb. I don't even like Chris.
What do you think the biggest lesson you learned is? If you could just define it in the most simple of terms, if you could go back in time, what would you tell yourself at the beginning of November 2017 when you started this whole ordeal?
Oh man, that's tough because there's a lot of little things I change, but big things, I think, relax, don't stress, do the research, put the stuff in your brain. And when you're talking, what's necessary comes out. Like, have notes, have some things like you don't want to miss this with this person or this with that. Like, that's important. Absolutely.
Right.
But, I don't feel in being scripted Larry King style, but I think it needs to be open and honest and able to travel down wherever it goes, and I think that you can't do that if you over prepare. If that's possible, I think I can rabbit hole somebody very easily. If I'm doing research and I go down, I'm like, if I just assume that Steven's just about Stronghold games, I'm not going to get all the other stuff about the beer and the move and and doing the the dress up and the stuff that he likes to do. I'm not going to get that because I didn't leave myself open to it. So I think just relax and trust your instincts would probably be the thing I tell myself.
I think that's great advice for anyone watching this even, is that just relax and be genuine and true to yourself. Because I think if anyone's watching the show, they want to feel that they're tagging along and they're sitting right there on the couch next to you and just hanging out with us. And that only happens when people are natural. It's kind of, you're in an abusive family. You can feel the tension when you walk into the room.
Right.
And I think that definitely shows through in this show, is that if there's tension, you can feel it in the room and it's less comfortable to watch. But if we're just genuinely having fun and enjoying each other's company, that's fun, man. That's fun. And that's why we're here. I love it.
And it's funny. It's funny you mentioned the couch, because that is a legit conscious decision to leave an empty couch on the set. Right. Like, I once got told by somebody who was describing artwork, and he said that, there's chairs in this piece. And I'm like, well, why are there chairs? And he goes, well, that's so that you can picture yourself inside the scene. And I'm like, so that was many, many years ago, but it kind of stuck with me. And I'm like, when I was designing the set and moving things around, I'm like, it made sense to always have the sofa here. A, for a guest who actually comes in studio, but B, so that you can feel like you're sitting right here with us having this chat. And that's the goal. So it's awesome that you found that.
Chris, Dan, congratulations on a successful year 1 of Game All Night. Can't wait to see what happens in year 2, but I've got a challenge for you. I'd like to see the show become marginally better. Hopefully that's not too much of a high bar that we've set here. But I'll go one step further and issue a challenge for the guests that you have on your show. I was one of a very small number of people who actually traveled out to the studio to be on the show, and I would not have done it any other way. The hospitality care of bartender Dan, A+. Your glass will always be full. So full that I haven't watched my own episode because I assume that I'm very drunk and talking about my job, which is not something I need to be reminded of. But if you do make it out there, know that it's a really cool studio, great place to visit, and a great way to be on the show. Can't wait to see who you've got lined up for Season 2, and rest assured, I and many others will be watching every single episode. Thanks again for having me on. I'll see you again soon. Maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely. I gave you a compliment online. I think you do a great job of letting all of your guests feel totally relaxed and be themselves. And I think that has a lot to do with you. Definitely not you, Dan, but definitely you, Chris, where people are totally relaxed and comfortable. So what are the plans for the future then? Where do you see the show going?
So I just want to see it like continue to kind of hone its own little space. You know, I want to be better at interviewing and a little more concise, I think, is another thing to try and get my interview style out, but not be overly long. So that's kind of, I want to continue to get better at that. I want to continue to have a nice variety of guests from all walks of life. Like, it kind of bums me out that some really cool people don't get a lot of views just because maybe you don't know who they are, but they're pretty awesome. Right. And they kind of, I feel like, you know, anytime I can put somebody up and show their work, I'm excited, and that's fun. So I want to continue to do that. And I think slowing down our pace a little bit now that we have a bit of a library, so that we can just kind of focus on quality of, you know, the add-ins, the final production, things like that. So the show kind of, I'm sorry if I'm rambling, I'm used to it.
No, I'm totally curious how often you want to have an episode. So are you looking at 2 a month, 3 a month, 1 a week? What is your formula for slowing it down for quality over quantity?
Right. So we started this year by slowing down to 2 per month, like every other week, essentially. But what we're releasing on the other week is the game we play. So it's still a release every week, but it's like a little more consumable. And right. And it lets us play the game a little bit more rather than trying to rush through it because it's tacked on at the end and things like that. That and the show kind of resembles Fallon and Saturday Night Live. But I would here's the pipe dream, right? I would really actually love to do a Space Ghost episode where we full on recut it, rescript it, and just kind of shred somebody. I think that there's a couple people who I need somebody really dry, really kind of blah, blah, blah. I think that there's a few of those in our life. But I think that's the pinnacle. Like I need to take off like a week and make that happen. Like that's going to be so much fun.
Space Ghost coast to coast analogy. Who's Dan? Is he Zorak? Is he Brack? Who do you feel
he's not mouthy enough for Brack? That's the problem.
Yeah. But is he sassy enough for Zorak?
Brack's interesting, so I don't qualify.
Yeah, well, I mean, you might be a better Brack than Zorak. I mean, I think Glenn Flaherty could play Zorak pretty well. He's campy, he's cheesy, all in the best way possible, mind you. But he's got that kind of quick wit that would kind of play well, and I think he already looks like a cartoon. So I think that'll
boom.
So
boom, suck on that, Dan.
Hi, Chris. It's me, Glenn, and I want to say congratulations on a fantastic first season. It was an honor to be on an episode. It was an honor to be on again, and it's certainly an honor to be celebrating it with you. You're incredibly funny. You have made a big difference, and you're at the vanguard of board game interviews and inebriation. So I can't thank you enough about that. You've been influential on just, tens of people. And it's not just me talking. It's like one other guy. And that's fantastic. I think the next season is going to be bright and things can only pick up from here. From the day we met, we really hit it off. I was walking home and you pulled up in a van that said free puppies in the back, and we started a conversation. And I was like, don't I know you? And you're like, no, you don't know me. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're on like the wanted list. And you're like, nah, not me. Anyway, old news. Thanks so much, man. I'm excited for the future. I'll talk to you soon, my friend. Bye.
this is total pop culture too, because first of all, we're dating ourselves with our fandom of Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Because what is that? That's mid to late 90s. Yes. Yeah. And that was before Adult Swim, or when Adult Swim was just starting on Cartoon Network.
Right.
So that's fascinating. I would love to see that episode. And I love that you're slowing down and you're focusing on quality over quantity, because again, if you're having fun and the guests are having fun, then that's what it's all about. Speaking of having fun,
yes,
I'd like to have some fun with you if you'd like, and grill you on some personal questions that my research has brought to my attention. But should we cut to a break first? Should we have is this a good time for a break?
Yeah, this is a great time for a little break.
Pontifications with Patrick Hillier.
A police officer caught two kids playing with a firework and a car battery. He charged one and let the other one off.
We're back. We're back, right, Dan? You're not messing up. We're back, right?
Dude,
I promise nothing.
It's been 5 times.
By the magic of editing, we're perfect. First try.
Yes, absolutely.
First try. Perfect. Thanks, Dan.
Hi there. Well, Chris asked previous guests of Game All Night if they would come and talk a little bit about their experience during Season 1. And so I just thought I'd say a few things. Number one, look, I'm sure you've all heard the stories about the swag bags. Goodness knows that I heard the stories. I had heard about these tremendous swag bags. They're personalized for each person. They kind of find out your interests, your likes, your dislikes, and they make this beautiful, ornate, extravagant swag bag to give to all their guests. Now, I'm not going to say that that was the deciding factor in me coming aboard, but I'm not going to lie, that played a significant role in me deciding to come and be a guest on the show. And so I figured I'd show you this because it's always been in this kind of rumor and innuendo stage. Let me show you exactly what you get. Well, first of all, it's supposed to be a customized bag. Well, don't know exactly who this is customized for. My name's not Meyer, but be that as it may. Well, first thing we got here, we got a tape measure. 25-foot tape measure. Kind of, sort of works. That's fantastic. Got dry erase markers. Two dry erase markers. One neon green and kind of a brown type of a thing. Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm going to get a lot of use out of that. A purse pack of Kleenex. Always handy and says so much about me. I appreciate that. And tube of Blistex. Actually, this is good. I need this, so I'm happy about that. Look, I don't know exactly what you heard about me. This is supposed to be some type of a reflection of who I am. I guess I can't figure it out yet, but I'll work on that. Anyway, be that as it may, swag bag notwithstanding, I appreciate being asked to come aboard. I had a good time on the show, and all joking aside, you treat your guests very well. You make it very simple for us, and I had a really good time. So take care. Good luck in Season 2.
Chris?
Yes, sir.
That couch may be comfortable, but it's getting a little hot because I have some research cards here. This is a little technique I learned from my friend Chris Whitpan as he surprised me with research. Because when I was on your show, I had no idea that you knew about my animal background. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, sir. Are you ready?
I don't know. I don't think I should have given you my wife's email address. I think this might be a problem.
Speaking of which, Sharon, come on in. She's here with me now.
Whoa, that's awkward.
Speaking of Sharon, though, I hear that the two of you go on vacation together and you have some hobbies in common, including scuba diving. So scuba diving, you need a certification, all that.
Right.
Share some scuba diving stories with me, if you will.
I really just kind of have two. I think so. So the first one is I think it's kind of funny. Like when you go and you decide, like, you know, hey, we don't have any hobbies together. Let's go do this thing together. All right. And so my wife and I went and we signed up for classes, found our local shop, and then we went and we started hanging out with the crew and everything. And we're getting ready to do our first lesson. And the dive master, the instructor, starts looking around. He's like, all right, everybody, let's introduce ourselves. Right. And like, so tell me a little bit about yourself and why you want to dive. Okay. And so he starts and he kind of gets to everybody and, you know, oh, I want to see fish. I want to go in the water. I snorkel. I want to do more. And then he comes to me and he's like, well, why do you want to dive? And I'm like, well, I kind of want to get over my fear of water. and there was this like dead lock eyes. Okay, he's not kidding. And then there was just like, I'm watching you. Like he just knew that I was going to be trouble. So
it's like you skipped a few steps because first you try to learn how to swim, maybe do some diving, but actually going down deep. Where's this fear of water come from, Chris?
So I think it's a couple things. Like my father, he could only ever like swim underwater. He could only ever like torpedo, right? So I never got taught how to swim, which is really funny because both my brothers were like on the swim team, but not me. That was not my thing, right? Not at all. And they were 6 years older, so they weren't going to teach me. But I think when I was younger, I fell in my uncle's pool in the deep end. And I think apparently it scarred me because there's a couple things that like we can find, like my fear of like intense lightning storms come from walking across the street when a transformer got hit. So I think falling in the pool had the same effect. And I think it just kind of, I jumped out. So here's the example of how much I hated water. I love being on boats. We're bringing the boat back from the marina. So we're in the rowboat. My brother-in-law, the jerk, starts, doing that thing, rocking the boat. Next thing you know, Chris goes out and Chris is freaking out as I'm in the water. And the proverbial stand up comes out of the boat. 3 feet deep. Yeah. So,
oh, man. Rather than men in tights. Just, oh, man.
Yeah, it was exactly, I was out chewed just standing down there. It was, So all those things kind of, but it's true. It's something that did get me over that fear because, when you're down 90 feet underwater, you kind of get over those things.
So fear totally conquered? You scared of water at all, or you think you've mastered it?
No, I think it really mastered it.
Dropped my earbuds. Oh, sorry. It's like I'm in the FBI or whatever. Like, I'm trying to be beautiful here. Sorry, go on. I couldn't hear you. I blame Dan. Dan, my earbud fell out. Where were you on that one? Nice going, Dan.
He's the
Sorry.
scourge.
Go on, Chris.
It's the scourge. So the fear's like, I don't want to say it's gone. Like, every now and then you just kind of get weirded out by it. But, being on a ship or being on a boat that's really tossing, but the end result is totally worth it. And I have comfort in my ability to float because I'm fat and don't sink in salt water.
Well, I think everyone should always have a healthy sense of fear. Having no fear whatsoever is just totally disregarding years of evolution and people dying in water. So you shouldn't be as comfortable as you are in your bed when you're scuba diving. So that's a good thing, that you still have some sense of fear there. So you've traveled around with your wife then, doing all sorts of different type of scuba diving. What's one of the more memorable, most beautiful scuba diving experiences? Take me there.
Wow. So the most memorable was like the first time we ever dove and I jumped off the back of the boat and I start going down and I didn't even have training yet. And I'm trying to go down. And next thing you know, I'm like literally pulling up the anchor for the boat, trying to go down because I didn't have enough weight and I was holding too much air. It took 42 pounds of dead weight to get me to the bottom. Basically, they had to, cement shoes pretty much did the job. So that's one of the the more oddball ones. But the most memorable is we just did Hawaii. Well, it's been 2 years now. And we're diving with my friend. I talked him into getting certified. So he went out, he got certified, and the three of us dove together in the beginner group. So they were all done, and my wife and I had plenty of air left. So the instructor kind of told us, feel free, hang out, chill around the bottom, do whatever. And so we're like, okay.
Use it if you got it.
Yeah, exactly. You guys know what you're doing. We're not worried about you. So we start like tooling around, and then next thing you know, we turn this one corner, and there's a freaking 12-foot manta ray just kind of coming in to the crater and the reef we were on. Yeah, and that's just it, man. It's just this big gliding thing, and it was beautiful because one of my bucket list items was to swim with something bigger than me, and this thing was definitely bigger. And it was just. And I had a camera. It worked one dive that trip, and this was the time it worked. And I have a nice picture of my wife, and then the manta down there. It was.
Are we able to get that picture up in post? Can we get that picture up to show this?
Yeah, I'll put it right up there because it's
whoa,
one of my
that's
favorites.
Beautiful.
It's awesome, right? Like I can show you on my phone, but
Here's the thing, Dan. I'm sorry. Here's the thing, Chris. You've just triggered a trap. Have you ever played the game Trap Words?
I have not, but let's do this.
Okay. So in the game Trap Words, it's like Taboo. If you've ever played Taboo, you try to get someone to guess a word.
All right.
But there's forbidden words that you're not allowed to say when you try to get your teammates to guess the word that's on your card. In Trap Words, they don't know what the word is, and the other team gets to create the words. So it's beautiful. It's brilliant. I love the game. But here's the thing. Manta Ray, I had on my card here as a trap.
Oh.
And now you've triggered the hot seat.
So
here we go.
I think we need to add some kind of sound effect right here.
No sound effect needed other than from your host Alan's mouth. Chris, manta ray or stingray? Do you know the difference? Barbed tail.
Barbed tail.
Manta ray or stingray?
Well, a stingray's tail is actually venomous, and a manta ray is not, right?
You are correct, sir. You know your manta ray then. So yes. So which one killed Steve Irwin then?
That was a stingray specifically.
That was a stingray. Yeah. Yeah.
Manta rays just eat plankton. They're filter feeders.
You know this stuff. I shouldn't even quiz you because I'd already ruined the one that I was going to ask.
Damn it.
Okay. Which is bigger? A manta ray or a stingray? Ooh. Which one is bigger, sir?
The stingray, the boat would be bigger, but a manta ray can get up to 12 to 18 feet. So I'm going to go with a manta.
I'm so sorry, sir. You're wrong.
What?
Because the biggest manta ray has been recorded as 30 feet.
Holy
An adult manta ray can go to 25 feet. But the stingray is actually the largest recorded fish at 65 feet. What? 65 feet?
That's as big as a house.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Dan can serve drinks off of that thing all night long.
Right?
All right. All right.
Good
Let me
Lord.
ask you a couple things about the manta ray, and then we'll go on with more scuba diving.
I'm digging this.
Manta rays, social or non-social animals? Are they social? Do they like to hang out with one another?
So
Do they hang out with them?
I think they feed socially, but I don't think they are social. I think they like because for instance, the one that came in the reef was just him and his like little pilot fish was just chilling with them. There was nothing else. So I'm going to go with experience on that one and say not social.
You are correct, sir. The only time they're social is when they're trying to get it on.
All right. I can appreciate that. That makes sense. Kind of like me.
How many babies does a manta ray have?
Oh, wow. I have no idea.
All right. I'll give you options.
You can give me options.
1,
all right.
2, or 6 every other year. So they pretty much breed every other year.
All right.
So they have 1, 2, or 6.
Wow.
1, 2, or 6.
See, I'm inclined to think that there's so much. The circle of life in the ocean is kind of rough, so I'm gonna go with 6. It's a rough thing, man. Like poor turtles. Turtles got it hard, but I'm gonna go.
I
6.
really recommend that you Google this because it's adorable. They usually only have 1 or 2 manta ray pups, as they're called. The babies are called pups, and if they have 2, they're rolled up like burritos. So when they're birthed out, they come out like little burritos and unroll. Yes, it's amazing. So you got to check it out. All right, I got some other facts. They eat 60 pounds a day. They used to have the moniker devilfish, which is unfortunate because they're pretty much harmless when it comes to manta rays.
Right.
If you see a manta ray, don't worry, you're not going to die. You see a stingray, you could be Steve Irwin. All right, let's get back to the scuba diving then.
Awesome.
I have here that you want scuba dove in an aquarium.
Yeah, so actually, it's kind of.
Sorry about that. I was getting rid of my card. Go on, sir.
So that wasn't the first time we'd seen a manta ray. We actually were driving home from Disney World one time and stopped in Atlanta, and we actually got to dive in the Atlanta Aquarium, which was. This thing is crazy. It's as big as a football field and 40 feet deep. It's
so if I was a fish and I had to live in an aquarium, Atlanta.
I'm thinking that's where you go. It's the San Diego Zoo from our last episode. As far as it's not the upstate New York farm. It's the San Diego Zoo, and it was amazing because what we did, we got to dive with 4 whale sharks, 2 manta rays, and a bunch of other like nurse sharks and sawtooth and things like that. But the funny thing is you just dive along the bottom and like all the fish are swimming overhead. And there's this one point when you swim in buddy pairs and I'm swimming with my wife and all of a sudden it gets dark. And I'm like, what the heck? And we look up and there's like the manta ray is going overhead and it just totally like blocked everything because that was so huge. Cool. That was like 18 feet. He was a big boy.
Here's what I want to know, Chris. Yeah. This was an activity that you contrived to do with your wife, Sharon.
Yeah.
So that you'd have this bonding together, couple that plays together, stays together. How's it working? Did it work? Is that a great experience? Would you recommend that? Because that sounds like gold to the point where you're selling me on it. I just want to make sure that you're not leading me astray.
No, it's so we had friends who did it. When we went through class, we did it together with another couple. But it does. It gives us like I love to ski. I love to do this. Luckily, she's started board gaming, so we have that. But the diving dictates a lot. Like when we say, well, let's go on vacation, well, the diving factors into it. It gives us a purpose to go out and go here, go there. Because otherwise I'm like, well, I want to go ski in the winter and she wants to go to the beach. I'm like, I don't want to go to the beach. I don't want to go to the islands. That's not my bag. But the diving actually made it my bag. So
yes,
it works. It's like, I don't like to just sit and fry in the sand, but I certainly love getting underwater and seeing the fishes. So it really worked like a charm for us. And, you have to do it in pairs. So that kind of helps, motivate you too.
Have you seen the movie Open Water?
No, and I'm not going to.
Don't.
No.
Don't. Yes. Don't ever watch the movie Open Water.
No, it's a legit fear though that you kind of just get like the dive boat leaves and you're under or something stupid happens. Like it's a legit fear if you go, but reputable operations, good training.
Yeah,
you're good.
Plot spoiler: 2 people get counted twice on the trip, so the guides are doing head counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They count the same people twice. They're all here. Let's go. And then there's the rest of the movie, which you shouldn't watch.
Hey, Chris and the Game All Night crew. This is Eric Buscemi. I am just popping in to say hey and congratulations on a 1-year anniversary. One funny anecdotal story I want to bring up from my time on as a guest on the show is that it was right after Origins 2018, and I had come on and talked about how there was this party on Wednesday night that people were filtering out of while I was sitting around playing Arkham Horror, the card game. And this belligerently, obliviously drunk guy came up and and started talking to us about how much he liked Dead of Winter, which he was convinced we were playing, and how his pants weren't even done. And I remember at the time, Chris said, "Well, wow, that was that was good. That was Wednesday night and not Thursday night because our party was on Thursday night." And then after the show ended, I actually realized it was on Thursday night, and we realized that it was Chris's party because I knew my friend Zach was there and he got one of the glasses, the Game All Night glasses. So I just think that's a really funny little moment we have to circle back that I was pointing out your what what a mess someone was leaving party. But anyway, I just want to say that I think it's great what you're doing, and I think it's great that you're really letting people get to know people in the hobby beyond what they contribute towards the hobby and for what they are. Like in my case, I know we talked about scuba diving a bunch. So thanks, Chris. Keep it up. Here's to many more years.
All right, let's move on. You said skiing. Skiing, sir.
Yes.
So you are a skier. Snowboarder or skier? Have you tried snowboarding?
I did. I snowboarded for like 3 years. I tried it. The learning curve on skiing is very low and slow. Snowboarding, it's very quick, but then it kind of is very slow. So I kind of got able to be okay, but then I could never get better. And I enjoyed it. It was fine, but it wasn't my bag. And I went back to skiing as a result. So
I haven't gone skiing since I was 15 years of age. And last time I went skiing, it was in Aspen, and it kind of ruined me because I was doing these really crappy bunny hills that are in Ohio, which don't count at all, where you have to wait, no joke, sometimes 45 minutes to an hour to go up a hill just to spend, no exaggeration, 30 seconds going down the hill on your skis. So I went to Aspen. I was like, oh, this is awful. But people have told me I should get into snowboarding because I used to do skateboarding and I can do wakeboarding, and I've never even tried snowboarding.
But if you wakeboard, there's definitely there's more parallels between wakeboarding than there is to skateboarding. Because, I think that there's a lot of similarity. I think you can pull it off.
That's what a lot of people have told me. They said, oh, you should try snowboarding. But I have in my orange card of truth here that you were a member of Ski Patrol.
I am.
That's the lifeguarding of the ski slopes. So you were a lifeguard of the ski slopes. What was the best save story you have? There has to be some juicy material there for our listeners at home.
It's funny because I do and I don't have great stories. I think the dumbest.
Well, you're better than Dan.
Well, he doesn't have stories. Period. He has kids. He doesn't have stories. That's we could talk about dynamic poop things and stuff, and he'd be able to chime in. But
right.
Love you, Dan. Sorry. But it's hard because there are people who get hurt. You have a guy with a dislocated knee or a collarbone, or my first call was a full on broken femur. My first call by myself, it was legit. Like when I called it in, they're like, "Are you sure?" They didn't believe me because they're like, "Oh, this little hot kid who just came out of training, has
it's broken. It's broken, sir. It's broken."
Exactly. No, it legit was. 11-year-old kid.
I mean, could you visually see the break? Was it something was a bone sticking out?
No, thank God, no. Oh no. Just because that makes your life miserable. But what you see if somebody breaks their femur is one leg is dramatically shorter than the other. So when we actually got him in, his one leg was like, and it's not the good old chiropractor. Oh, your left leg's half an inch shorter than your right. No, like it was legit. Like on an 11-year-old kid, it was like 3 to 4 inches shorter.
Oh, gross.
It kind of is.
And this is 11-year-old?
Yeah, he was like, dad was helping out. He was holding on things, but like, dude, you'll never forget. Like that was like my legit first solo call. And I'm like, all right, this stuff's real, man. Like,
have you ever had the reverse happen where someone has a grievous injury and you say, hey, you got to stay up the slopes like this? I'm like, no, it's nothing. It's nothing. But realistically, like I paid for my path and I'm using my ski pass. I'm going down them hills.
Yeah, it's happened. I had one kid and he's in the lodge. I go, one of the most common things we get is like, snowboarders, they fall and, they either fall back or forward, right? And they fall in the outstretched hand and then they'll break or sprain something in the wrist and their arm. So, this guy, I'm pretty sure he had a fracture. I mean, I don't have x-ray vision. We don't have any of that. But you go to some of the big mountains, they'll have an actual legit x-ray machine there, right? Like
it sounds like a smart investment, obviously.
Right. Yeah. For the big mountains, that's cool. Like I think Hana up in New York, I think they have one. But
if we open a ski slope together, Chris, MRI machine, we're going to get an MRI machine right there in the lodge.
Snowcat scan, we'll call it. I think that's right.
Good stuff.
But
so this guy fractured wrist.
I'm pretty sure he had like an ulnar or radial fracture, and I package him up, I sling him, I put him in a splint, and I give him a nice sling and everything, and I'm like, all right, you need to go home, get this, because he didn't want to go to the hospital. I'm like, okay, just keep it immobile, go to urgent care when you get home, do whatever. And so I sent him on his way, and a lot of this is faith. Like I trust that he's going to do that, right? I'm riding up the lift half an hour later, and when you know it, he's in the terrain part with the sling, and he's still boarding. He's just out there like, hey, check me out. I'm cool. Like I'm like, so he didn't come back in for anything else. So I'll call it a win, kind of.
Yeah. You didn't get in trouble, obviously.
Well, what can you do? You're just like, I suggest you either do it or you don't. It's, people like to think we're the cops of the hill. We're more like, remember safeties, with the yellow, with the orange, cross.
You talking about crossing guards?
Yeah. Like, remember when you were in school and you were a safety and you had your belt?
Like a hall monitor. That's what we called them, the hall monitor. Man, you would get your ass kicked if you were the hall monitor.
Yeah.
You didn't want to be the hall monitor.
No.
You were a rat.
No.
But I don't think that ski patrol, I think of as something that a lot of people find sexy.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're a good enough skier.
You obviously did not see any movies in the 80s then, We are not viewed that way, brother. But no, it's really awesome. Like, I just thought like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to go learn how to ski. Maybe I'll take somebody down in a toboggan. That'll be cool, right? And then I get into it and like, dude, like we train, like a lot of our patrollers could actually go ride on an ambulance. Like we are trained to that level that we can actually be first responders and ride in an ambulance and stuff. So it's, and that's actually turned into a huge passion of mine. Like I really love doing this stuff in the winter, and it's a lot of fun.
So
now I train
ski patrol. This is still a thing. You still go out and wow.
Yep.
Yeah. So using the lifeguarding analogy, it's not like you're some high school 16-year-old at your local pool lifeguard. You're legit Baywatch lifeguard where they put people on the gurneys, send them in the ambulance, whole 9 yards. You're legit certified.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hi, this is Ambi from Board Game Blitz, and over the past year, I've had a lot of fun watching Game All Night, and I remember when the first few episodes came out, I thought it was really cool, and I really wanted to be a guest on the show, and I finally was. I actually was on the show twice, on the regular show and on a top 5 list, which was pretty neat. And one thing I really enjoyed about it is being able to talk to Chris about 18xx games, because he's a fellow media person who likes 18xx games, and that's pretty fun. And one of the takeaways when I was a guest on the show was that I didn't realize that other people actually have names for all the tracks other than like the gentle curves and the chicken foot, and I don't actually remember any of the names that he had for them, so I guess it wasn't that memorable. But I do remember the picnic table, but that was pretty interesting. And we also got to do other stuff, which was fun. I got to play Codenames Disney, which is always a lot of fun, and I still haven't played Codenames Disney with someone else who knows the same amount of Disney that I have. Another thing I've enjoyed about watching Game All Night is that people talk about their hobbies outside of board gaming, and it's really interesting to see what other people are into. And when I was on, I was talking about my Rubik's Cube, my former Rubik's Cube hobby of competitive Rubik's Cube solving, and I didn't solve one on the show then, but both Chris and Dan were mentioning that they wanted to see it, and I think Dan was mentioning it as a surprise too in the later stream. So I'll solve one for you now. Here's a Rubik's Cube. This has been sitting in my purse for a long time, gathering dust, so it's not the best condition Rubik's Cube, and I'm also out of practice, so this won't be like over 15 seconds, but it'll still be decent. Oops. There. Ta-da! Anyway, so yes, I don't know how long that took, but yeah, thanks again for having me on Game All Night. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully we can do more in the future. I like hanging out with you guys, and I had a lot of fun being on the show, and I really enjoy watching the show, so good luck with the future. Happy 1-year anniversary, and happy future stuff.
This isn't even on one of my cards. I just have to know, what is it that you do that enables you to go on these trips and scuba diving and to transform your entire lovely place of living into a set for this show, Game All Night?
Well,
or is that too personal?
I'm independently wealthy, so that makes life, easy. I'm a definite 100-aire. I got a couple hundred in the bank.
700-aire.
So so there's two things, right? It's number one is, we don't have kids, so we're,
boom.
Obviously that saves some. I mean, let's be honest, we're dinks. So we never had that issue. We have space. So I have room in the basement. I have a lot of the equipment already from being a photographer. So, a lot of it I was able to repurpose, so that helps a lot. But basically what I do, and I actually just got recently promoted. So I'm kind of like head of R&D for a restaurant group. So now I'm like kind of using my chefing chops now. So I'm back to being kind of like the corporate chef and menu designer and, researching menu and developing.
That was the other thing in my notes. So here's some random things about Chris Whichpan.
Yes. Randos.
So photographer and trained chef. What?
Yep. Yeah.
Trained chef. So you're a classically educated trained chef. Do you have any specialties?
So, well, it's like, it's a hard question because, you love food, right? Like, I love food. Yeah. Like, you like game design. You're like, well, I make party games, but I love all games, right? So food, it kind of falls in the same kind of bailiwick. But, I would argue that, I love the flavors of southern France and northern Italy, that whole mountain range, and, like lavender and rosemary and all those I like really kind of earthy, but very simple flavors. So, I was trained in the 90s, and that's kind of what my degree's in. So I'm actually one of those people who uses this degree. Go figure.
Yeah. Nice work, sir.
It happens.
Nice work.
Hey there, Game All Night crew. Eric Summerer here, taking a break from reading romance novels to say thank you for having me on the show in your first season. I had a blast playing games and hanging out with you and being that floating head above the couch, which I still think is pretty awesome. Best of luck with your second season. I hope you have a great 2019. Take care and have fun gaming.
All right, one more thing on this.
One more.
I have to have you cook for me sometime. I have to have you take some pictures for me. I have to have you go scuba diving.
Can do
Chris,
that.
You're a Renaissance man. I'm not sure you even realize this. This is ridiculous. The amount of things that you're doing is very impressive. There's one thing on here I totally didn't Google because I wanted to admit my ignorance. I have all these question marks right by it. It says autocross? What the butt is autocross? And now I can make some guesses.
Okay, well, you go ahead and guess. You tell me. I think that's going to be more interesting.
Yeah, it's a race with an automobile and running. So it's like a triathlon, but part of the leg is a car. The other one is it has to do something with collecting autographs, because I read that you collect autographs as well, which my Gramps did, and we should share autographing stories at some point. But autocross, the other idea I have is it's some type of competitive cross stitching where you're doing some type of things. I have no idea, but my best guess is I have no idea.
So you were really close on the last one. We designed Lego robots that do cross stitch automatically. No
way. That's legit the thing?
No,
You're
that is
messing with
not.
me.
I'm totally punking you. No.
Son of a... I mean,
that's pretty awesome, though. That's great.
That was better improv than I had. What did I come up with? But that's incredible. So what is it legit?
So
wait, hold on. Don't say it. Dan. I don't know what the hell you do on this show at this point, but
I'm pressing buttons.
You're pressing buttons. Just pressing buttons. And,
he's here, I swear.
What autocross is?
I am familiar with autocross, but it'll be much more interesting to hear it from Chris. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I'm not asking you, Dan, what autocross is. I want to ask you, why do you think I don't know what autocross is? What is it about Alan Gerding, Tuesday Night Games co-owner, game designer, psychologist, that makes it so I don't know and have never heard of autocross? You're useless, Dan. Okay, Chris, go.
See, that's why you don't ask questions.
One breath. I'm here with two guys, or I can't even breathe. No, I think you are not an exception here. I think if we surveyed 10 people off the street, 9 out of 10 would have no idea what autocross is.
I really want to grab a camera and go out and ask 10 people, a la like Letterman or something right now, but I'm way too lazy to do that.
It's also winter.
If we went out right now with a camera, we would find 0 out of 10 people.
All right, we'll just take that as a given.
Okay. Maybe for another episode.
Maybe.
All right, so autocross. What is autocross?
So for a couple years, I did autocross, which you're halfway there. It's really, you're racing cars. But like I bought like a cheap Ford Focus that was like, brand new, stripped down, like 11 grand. It was like dirt cheap at the time because my wife wouldn't let me buy a motorcycle. So this was my acting out. And then I proceeded to trick it out. And my buddy and I used to, you drive it to the venue, put slick tires on, and race it around a parking lot. And then we'd set up cone courses and you go race for time in your class. And it was a blast. It was a lot of fun.
Wow. So it's just another form of racing, but it's not NASCAR and it's not Indy. And it's more of this,
right?
I guess.
Little hot laps, we called them. It was like, the average times were about like a minute. So it was like, kind of small courses, but very technical. Like, you really needed to nail turns and things like that. So
still dangerous. Am I right? Do you have to get special safety equipment when you're doing this?
Not really. You really only need to have, for the classes we were racing, you just needed to have regular seatbelts and a helmet was all we needed, which was a challenge because, I don't fit in a lot of cars with a helmet on. I once drove a Lamborghini and they made me put a helmet on and I couldn't fit because I was like this because the helmet was against
How tall are you?
6'5".
Yeah, that would do it. That would do it. You're a monster. Oh my goodness. It's amazing. I didn't mean to offend everyone who's 6'5" and above.
We're all freaks of nature. It's cool. It's fine.
At some point. Yeah. Yeah. This is just like domestic racing. I love it.
Yeah.
And you said Sharon is totally okay with it and she is all for it?
Well, Sharon lets me have my hobbies, but and this is why the scuba diving came about.
I could see that you had to balance it out. Let me just say, for those that don't know, Chris's relationship with Sharon is amazing. I got to meet the two of you. I believe it was Origins in Columbus, Ohio. You came by the booth. The two of you were, no joke, I know this is going to sound like an exaggeration, probably the highlight of my entire Origin shows, because you two would come around again and again, would play That's Not Lemonade again and again, and you bring so much life and light to the booth that people just magnetically were attracted. I almost wanted to hire you and Sharon just to hang out at the booth and play, because you naturally having so much fun. So it just reeked of a healthy relationship and whatnot. So good work. Good work, Sharon. Thanks. Your relationship with Chris is really good, because she's here, remember?
Psychiatrist approved. Come on. I mean, you can't really.
Yeah, look at that.
I'd rather see a psychologist this way than the other way. So
there you have it.
But no, I'm definitely made the better for it, no doubt.
Chris, I really appreciate your time. I think that you're doing a great job hosting. I'm glad you're doing it instead of me, because I had so much fun talking to you and harassing Dan. So thank you, Dan, for pushing your buttons and letting me be the pale imitation of you as the host. So here's to all the episodes you've done, and here's to so many more yet to come. And are there any last things you'd like to tell the viewers at home before we end the episode all about Chris Quitpan? Besides, don't call him Chris Quitpan.
So I think the funniest thing is just kind of twofold. I think number one is why is Alan here? I think it's important for you guys to know. I'll tell. A year ago, I didn't know Alan at all. You were literally you were a name on a list that Gary gave me. Said you might want to talk to him. I think he'd be fun. And dude, it was just like instantly comfortable. You invited me on your podcast, and that was a blast. Like that was the first time.
So much fun.
It was just kind of off the cuff. It was very, and it kind of really made an impression. And I'm like, your style kind of it jibes with mine, and I really, I instantly felt that, to the point where as soon as I saw you at Origins, it's like insta hug, like
right.
It's like.
And you had a freaking shirt made with you as the president. Ridiculous. It's
I didn't have it made. The better part is a friend of mine had it made for me for like 2 rooms and a boom card that said Con Man, because I hold a little con in my house every year.
That's right. So, the Con Man. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So she made me the shirt, and I'm like, oh, I'm so wearing this next time I see Alan. And sure enough, boom.
And that was one thing I didn't get to that was on the cards, is that you host a convention. So you are the Con Man. You host when is this? Where is this? What's the address? And where's my invite? Let me write this down.
It's in the mail. I just throw it for the birthday that I have every year. One year I wanted to do something special for like 45, I think. And I'm like, I'm just going to invite a bunch of people over, and I kind of turned it into a con theme. And next thing I know, it was like 32 people. Wow. And that was 3 years ago. So this year we're looking at doing number 4. And last year we had like 42 people on Saturday, with several people stay in the house and things. And it's a blast, because you get to have all your friends over, and you get to game for like 3-4 days in the comfort of your home. And I love it. I love it. I'm blessed that I have the room to do it in, the friends to do it with, and they continue to come back year after year. It's amazing. I love it to death.
I think you're underselling yourself a little bit, because probably the best part about the con is that you are hosting it. Again, there's that affability, that likability. You instantly make people feel relaxed. So I really appreciate how you've made me feel welcome, and how you make everyone else, even around my booth, feel welcome. It's contagious. So keep doing what you're doing and keep watching Game All Night.
It is over. Thanks for watching this week's episode. Join us next week when we play a game with the guest. If you enjoy our content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Be sure to follow us on all forms of social media. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook are the best ways possible. Simply find us by searching for Game All Night Show. And of course, check out our website at gameallnightshow.com. This Week and Each Week is made possible through the generous support of donors like these. Be sure to subscribe below and check out our latest videos.
You try to warn him, man.
I try.
Yeah, if there's an impression that like, we're raising the bar for how well dressed like folks need to be, then I have erred here.
Whoa, Chris, whose show is this? Hold on. Chris, you're stepping on my mojo here. You're on the guest couch, Chris.
Sponsors!
Oh,
yay! Give us stuff!
Oh, man, I love that you listen to my show. This is cool.
Well, yeah.
So affable.
I like TK.
Oh,
He's
man.
my bud. TK's my homie.
No, you're doing things.
Okay, I'm actually gonna shoot that. Camera scares me. I'm gonna have to hold it up there. I'm gonna leave these bloopers in for you. Maybe. Not all of them. I'm gonna cut some out. Okay, I guess I can solve it for you now.
It's finished, and then just kind of what?
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go home.